the weekly show with David J. Maloney.
This week, David chats with legendary bassist Matt Bissonette.
And now, here's your host, David J. Maloney.
Welcome, everyone, to the weekly show. I'm your host, David J. Maloney. On tonight's show, we've got the next part of my interview with bassist Matt Bissonette. He's an accomplished and well-respected musician who's played with some of the biggest stars in music, from David Lee Roth to Jeff Lynne, Ringo Starr, and Elton John. Matt has worked with some of the best in the business. Back again tonight to continue our chat about his life, career, and new album with his current band, the Redcoats, is Matt Bissonette. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. You know, I saw ELO a few years back, and it was definitely one of the best shows I've ever been to, and I've gone to a lot of shows. You had I presume, the pleasure of playing with Jeff Lynne and ELO for a bit. How did that come about?
Our friend Craig Fruin, I think he called Gregg and I about that, and we were playing with a couple different bands at the time, and it just turned out to work out perfectly in everybody's schedule. Jeff decided to put, this was back in 2005 or whatever, I can't remember the exact year, but Jeff had been on hiatus as far as playing live. He just didn't do it very much, and he decided to put ELO back together. An original keyboard player, Richard Tandy, who just passed away a little while ago, he was the only original member, but Jeff decided to put it back together. So it was pretty scary for him, because he hadn't played in front of people for so long. And those songs are pretty challenging vocally and just getting out there and doing it. So he had a record called Zoom that just came out, and he was going to promote that tour. So we, got the band together, and we rehearsed for 3 weeks. And then this was during certain time, I think it was during 9/11, I think happened, where everything got canceled and moved around. And we never went on the road, but Jeff being Jeff, he paid everybody for the whole 6-week tour we were going to do. And it was kind of if that tour went well, we were going to keep going, but it just kind of put a little stop in it. But I just remember the rehearsals, and I was talking about this the other day, about the ear that Jeff has and what an amazing producer he is. I had my in-ears in, and I was listening to it, and it sounded exactly like an old ELO record. I mean, we had Mark Mann, who was playing guitar, who did all the synth sounds, and we had the cellos, and it was frighteningly close to the record. And we did a DVD with that for Zoom. But I just remember hearing and that's one of the cool things, too, about playing with different people, is when you have your in-ears on and you hear, because you've played these songs, all these cover songs with people, and your best friend is singing the part. But then when you hear Jeff Lynne singing it, or you hear Dave, or, whoever, Elton or whatever, the real guy sing it, you just kind of go, oh man, this is wild.
Gives you a little chill, probably the first or second time, right?
Big time. And you just want to do a good job. I mean, Gregg and I, we're big on just praying that we do a great job for the person, whatever it is. If it's a $200 session, you just want to do the best job so that they want to hire you again, and that they're happy, because you're a musical servant and you're doing your thing, and you just want to make it good. So I remember one day we were in rehearsal, and we're all singing backgrounds and stuff, and there's this background part, and I was singing, and he's going around, and you can barely understand what Jeff says, because I think he's from Birmingham or England, and he'll just go, yes, you go, what's that, Jeff? So it's always kind of like you're just not used to hearing that. So I remember he was going, oh, yeah, scooping, and he was saying, who's scooping the notes? So we got 5 singers. He could hear one guy way in the background going, instead of just going, like fun is shining, da da da, Mr. Blue Sky. He could hear me going, blue sky. It's just really subtle. The fact that he could hear that, he's got like micro ears, and that's why he's the producer that he is. It was unbelievable that he heard it, and it kind of freaked me out. And the whole time I made sure I didn't scoop ever, which is really hard for me because I'm a scoop meister.
I want to talk a little bit about your time with Ringo Starr and his all-star band. I'll admit, I don't know the story of how it happened, but I'm just kind of imagining the two kids like we talked about earlier, being at the show in 66 or 67, and then what they would have thought when either of them got the call from an actual Beatle to come play with him. How did that moment come about?
I can't remember exactly how it happened, but it kind of all came through Mark Hudson, who was Ringo's musical director at the time, and he had done a band, Ringo and the Roundhead. I think it started. I remember Jack Blades was playing bass, and it's so funny because we're out on the road with REO Speedwagon right now,
Mm-hmm.
and Night Ranger's with us too. And I saw Jack, the bass player, and I was going, "Hey man, we're both Beatle guys, and we were talking about playing with Ringo and stuff." And then I remember John Waite played bass with them and sang. And then somehow I think Gregg did a session for Mark for Aerosmith or something. I can't remember what exactly it was. And then Mark goes, "Hey man, you should play. You should. I'm going to talk to Ringo about having you play." And he goes, "We need a bass player too." And then Gregg says, "Well, Matt's really good, so let's." So I think I did a session for Mark too. I think I did Robert Downey's. He did an album and it played on that. And he goes, "Let's have you guys play." And that's just the way it is, with music in LA. A lot of people just go to clubs every night to be seen because, when you're there, somebody goes, "Well, who's a good bass player?" "Well, I just saw Matt last week. He's a good guy, and let's have him." That's the game, right? I mean, it's just all like, where are you? And I'm not a big club guy, so fortunately, my brother's a pretty good hustler at getting gigs and stuff. So that kind of came through him, and it just went through Mark Hudson. So we show up at rehearsal, and that was the first time we met Ringo, and I went to shake Ringo's hand. He goes, "I only give hugs," and he gave me a hug, and I was like, "Wow, this is pretty cool." And once you get over the Beatles shock thing, you just kind of go, "All right, I just want to do this job and not
Yep.
screw it up."
It's a
And
job and you want to do it. You want to do it well.
yeah, man. And the cool thing about Ringo is that he doesn't use click tracks. He doesn't do anything. He just he'll sit there like this and they go, "Let's go play." And then he'll go up and he won't even think about the tempo. He'll just go 1, 2, 3, 4. So sometimes you'll play a song twice as fast as it was earlier, but it always sounds good because the way he plays drums, he just makes everything sound natural.
He's
And
just always always in the pocket.
Yeah, and it's very strange. It's very strange how he can do that and make a song swing, even if it's a little slow or fast, usually a little bit faster. But the cool thing with Gregg and him is that Gregg is the best gig Gregg's ever had in his life because Ringo is his other brother, and they get along so well and they're drummers, and Gregg really helps Ringo because Gregg will cue him on things, and when Ringo's having to sing and he's in another land, Gregg always holds it down. But Gregg can play because he's played with two drummers a lot. It's really hard because when you're playing, you don't want to flam drums because you're both hitting the snare at the same time. So they have this chemistry thing, and I think Gregg just watches him like a hawk. It's pretty amazing to watch.
Yeah, I remember it was kind of similar with the Moody Blues and Graham was still around. They, when he was getting a little bit up there in age, they added a second drummer and Graham, and they'd have to do that same kind of thing. But it's got to be,
Yeah.
I mean, from your brother's perspective, to sit there and occasionally just look over and just go, "Holy crap, I'm literally doing this right now. Like this is happening." Like that's got to be just so cool. I know
those moments are rare. I mean, I remember when I first got in the band, we were doing TV tours with Ringo. We were playing the Jay Leno shows, and I think we were on Conan O'Brien or some show where we were doing one of Ringo's songs that was talking about the Beatles and how they were brothers. It's a great song. And we're playing, and I remember there's a line, and we're playing on a TV show, and we're playing, and then Ringo goes, "We were brothers through it all." And I remember looking back at Gregg, and Gregg was just gushing tears, looking at me going, "I'm playing in a band with my brother, with Ringo, talking about brothers." And it was just like, you have those moments, you just go, got to freeze that moment forever. That's moment.
I know you're a fairly spiritual person. Have you ever had a moment in your music career or on stage or even by yourself where you felt music gave you created or perhaps triggered like a moment of transcendence?
Well, thanks for bringing that up. That's everything to me. I mean, it's my relationship with God and Jesus, and just knowing who you are. I mean, the music business is, besides being a joke about a lot of things, it's a smokescreen as any job is. It's sometimes when you're not doing so well, people feel sorry for you. But then when you got a great gig, people are calling you because they want a piece of that. And then you have to kind of put these things in places that if I didn't have God in my life, I wouldn't know what to do with them, you know? And I mean, I write a lot of music and I know where that comes from. And I know when I have a song that comes from me, that's an okay song that does its thing. But then there's certain songs that I just go, I know where that came from. And I have to always remember where music came from. You know, God created us and gave us music to relate to each other, and it's a way of glorifying him. So I kind of always try and keep a humble thing about what I'm doing and the responsibility of writing lyrics, putting out songs that have a dark, disturbing message. I just don't want to do it. I just don't want anything to do with that. And even now, when I get called to sing on songs and I look at the lyrics, I'm just going to go, I can't sing that, man. That's just, I don't know what you mean by this, but I don't want to be a part of it. So the lyric thing is very, very important. So um, it's just something, I mean, it's something that I think that I know God has given me a gift of being able to pick up a bass and play it. And I know he's blessed my voice because I'm not really a good singer, yet I got the Elton gig because I can sing background parts. And you know, and for producing and all these gifts that have been given to me, I'm just thankful for them. And I can't just say it's because I've worked so hard on them, you know, because I haven't. I mean, I'm a pretty lazy guy you know, I'm not like Billy where he's, you know, plays so great because he's put so much time into that thing. And Greg and I are more of like, we're pretty good at a bunch of different styles of music. We can hang in a session if we have to play a Latin session or an upright jazz session, but I'm not Eddie Gomez or Niels Orsted Pedersen or the most amazing thing, but I can hang with it, you know, because that's kind of what we do. Um, so I acknowledge where that stuff is every day, and even playing here right now, you know, wherever we're playing on the road, I just go, how did I get this job? How did I get any job? You know, I'm 63 years old. One of the funny things is that I can say that God did was I was out on the road with a bunch of different bands. I think I was out with Rick Springfield, and we had been writing and producing and co-producing records for years, but it was like 10 years, 12 years of that. And I was just getting kind of fried of flying in the States, and I was kind of just wanted to do something else. And I got on my knees and go, God, if you could just throw me some type of gig that's different than anything else that I ever did. You know, I don't want to be the guy in Green Day because I'll be the oldest guy. I'll look like Moses up there playing, you know, but just some gig. Let me be one of the youngest guys in the band and just something. 3 days later, Davey calls me from Elton John's band, and Bob, our really good friend bass player, passed away. He goes, "Do you want to play bass?" And I was like, "Okay, that's weird." And I get there, and I'm the youngest guy in the band, and I was like 55 you know. So I'm going, okay, so I'm doing the math. This gig just happened. I'm the youngest guy in the band. Okay, so you just go, that's either creepy or divine intervention. Same thing with this gig with REO Speedwagon. I was sitting at home kind of going, you know, I've been home for a year from Elton and it's been great. I didn't really want to go back on the road, but my friend Kim, who's the keyboard player from Elton, calls me up. He goes, "Man, I just played with Foreigner because the keyboard player had a baby, and it was fun, man, playing 80s rock with these guys, really nice guys." And I go, hung up the phone. I go, "That's really cool, man. That sounds like fun." 10 minutes later, Dave Amato, the guitar player from REO, calls me. He goes, "What are you doing? Call me, call me, call me." I call me. I go, "What's up?" He goes, "Bruce, a bass player, his back just went out, and we have a gig next week. Can you help me? Can you help us?" And it was just like that. And then, so I've been with them for 5 months, you know, until Bruce comes back. You just go, that stuff doesn't happen, you know. Maybe people will say, well, yeah, that does happen, but I know what it is, you know. So, yeah, spirituality and relationship with God is the most important thing to me through everything. So, anyway.
Is there a particular song that gives you joy, like a song that whenever you play it, it makes you happier, or perhaps if you're feeling poorly, uplifts you? Is there a go-to song?
Yeah, I mean, I could go through all the things. I remember with Satriani, we'd always play this song called Friends. Whenever we played that, it was just like I could just feel something different. It was just I don't know what it was about that song. When we with Elton, we'd play uh, what's this? Is it my song or your song? This song's for you. Yeah, the last
Yeah.
song of Elton said. And there's certain songs that the spirit of the song just, like you say, makes your skin go. And there's something in that song, and that's the thing that these guys, the Rick Springfields and all these people have, that people say, well, I wish I had gotten signed. I wish that I was famous. And you go, these guys have fought really hard for what they do, and they're really good songwriters, and they're these certain songs, like with Rick, we play Jesse's Girl, and just the explosion of girls screaming when you go, da, 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 da. I mean, you play that in any club, you just go, and Rick will go, oh man, well, I've got so many other songs, and we laugh about it, but I'm going, that song caught lightning,
Yeah.
you're stuck with it. That's a good problem to have. So, I mean, each, like with REO, it's when we play Keep on Rolling, Roll with the Changes. It's like you can just feel a lift in the crowd when you play it, and it's an amazing thing what certain songs do, And then there's
Oh,
certain
yeah.
songs that artists play that are their new songs that, like Elton would say, every time I play a new song, people get up and go pee. It's like, they go for their pee break there because they don't want to hear something new, So it's those certain songs that are big because they get lodged in your brain and you grow up with them, and it's like a Kansas song. When
Well,
I hear
they
Kansas,
they tie
yeah,
memories. They tie you to memories. You know what I mean?
yeah, exactly. It's very strange.
Yeah. I feel like music is sometimes able to say something that is otherwise ineffable, and it makes music that much more important, I think.
I
Um,
think it's the spiritual side of music. I think it's heavier than we know, way heavier than we even imagine.
before we get into the brand new Redcoats album, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you a few questions about the time you were with Elton John. When did you first meet Elton, and is there something that sticks out to you about that first meeting?
Well, everybody was really shocked when Bob passed away. It was unexpected, and they were in the middle of they were on a week or 2 week break before they started up again, and they had a whole tour. So, when somebody passes away, it's like everybody was really close to Bob. They had the grieving time, and then it was kind of like, well, we can't cancel this tour. We need to get going. And so it was a little odd. I remember showing up for the sound check because Elton doesn't really rehearse. It's just kind of like jump on the train and have your stuff together and go. So I just remembered just keeping Bob's basses and his amps and everything so that it wouldn't be a completely different sound. So I just wanted to fit in and keep the train going like nothing had happened, which was impossible, but try and make it easy on everybody. And I remember Elton kind of just looking at me going, yeah, that's great, great, sounds great. And I remember on the third gig, because after every Elton gig, it's like this Beatle moment where you get off the stage, everybody changes really quick backstage, and you're in some type of vehicle with a police escort. And it's like you're going to the airport and you're getting on the private plane. It's just like because Elton just can't sit still. You get on the plane and Elton's not talking about the gig. He's doing a crossword puzzle because he's already moved on. It's like, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. So I remember in the vehicle driving to the plane, Davey hands me his phone. Davey Johnson hands me his phone and goes, Elton wants to talk to you. And Elton goes, man, you sound amazing. And I appreciate you playing everything because I wrote down every lick that Bob played on his last gig. I just wanted to be respectful to that. And I just kind of did what Bob did. And he goes, you're a great bass player and I love what you're doing, but feel free to play whatever you want. Don't feel like you have to play what Bob did. We want you to do you. And probably in 12 years of playing in that band, he only said two comments to me about what he wanted. He said on Rocket Man, maybe play a little bit less on this section, and on this one song, maybe just back it off a bit. I mean, for 12 years of playing with somebody, it's pretty incredible that somebody wouldn't go, and bar five, can you put a little, he was just And he would go up every night, and he would never play the same thing twice. It was just completely improv. How much different stuff can I put in Tiny Dancer? And he would, it was because of my location on the stage, and Bob used to tell me about this, because you're right next to him. He feeds off of you as the bass player. You're his entertainment director guy. So he'll play something and he looks at you, and then you kind of go, or
You got to read. You got to read when you're going to do this or do that.
yeah. And I was like going, you know what? I'm in this band, and I'm not going to brown nose them and look at them every time and go, yeah, you're the greatest, you're the best. I'm gonna make them earn it. I'm gonna make them, like, if it's really cool, I'm gonna go, yeah, yeah, yeah. Not in a weird way, but I mean, I don't want to spend the whole night looking at them going, yeah, yeah, I love you, man, you're the best. So he would be playing crazy stuff and just looking at me all night. And I'd look at him and we both go, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I could just tell he was like a little kid that just wanted everyone to go check this out. And there's no way you can be around that and not have it be infectious, where you just want to kill it every night. I mean, there's certain times you play and you're just playing and you walk out and your fingers are fine. My fingers would hurt every night because I'm like, and you just get so into it because you see him pounding that piano, man. And it's just amazing to be around somebody that is so into it, every night after all these years. It's amazing.
Well, I mean, you've played with some of the biggest names around, but to me, I mean, there's few people who could match Elton's mystic music fame and career. I mean, for our generation, especially, Elton and like the Beatles are as high as anyone could ever hope to be in a music career. I mean, even if you were a little older at the time you started playing gigs with him, realizing you're going on tour with Elton John, that's kind of got to make you feel like a kid, again, right? I mean, that youth, does it bring back the youthful excitement that only comes around every now and then now as we get a little older? Am I right about that, or am I
No,
off?
you're absolutely right. It's a funny thing. Greg and I always talk about it because Greg was just out with Ringo for a month, and that is his sweet spot of just everything is great. You go into hotels and they're giving you food and you're hanging out, and then you get done with it, and then you come home, and then you got to cut your grass, or you got to clean up dog crap or whatever your thing is. You're instantly, and in my marriage of 30 years, my wife is my mediator of letting me know if I'm full of myself or not. We did a show the other day with Elton. We did a one-off the other night in Vegas at the Allegiant Stadium, right? For this private party for like 30,000 people, right? And it was the first time that I played with the band in a year. And you walk on stage and you go, oh yeah, I remember this. And then you're just playing and you're going, okay, yeah. And then my wife and I had a plan that right after the show, I'm going to get in my Toyota Corolla and drive back to Los Angeles, like 3.5 hours. We rush into the car. Well, before anybody's gone, we get in the car and we get on the 15 freeway and start driving home and stop at Starbucks. And my wife goes, we have a gas bill we got to get to. And, it instantly shot back into
Life.
This is real life. What just happened isn't real. This is real, and it's an amazing balance. And I think we need that. I need that, so it's kind of a weird thing. It's a weird thing to, the keyboard player, Kim, called me up. He goes, that was weird, right? We haven't played in a year and we just went through this ultimate high. And then the next day we're all home going, okay, well, what's next? It can mess with your mind. And I can see where musicians can go off the track with that because you can't keep that high. I mean, it's impossible. Elton does it because he has a team and his situation where he's doing something every day. If he was just to go home and sit around, he'd probably lose his marbles, but he's constantly on that high. I can't do that, man. I'm like, I need to go home, look at my dog, and just sit there.
Let the dopamine recharge. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, that's our show for tonight. Thank you so much for watching. And a special thanks to Matt Bissonette for joining us. Matt will be back again next week, so please tune back in. Stay safe, everyone.